Today's New York Times editorially endorsed Kamala Harris for president, which I'm glad they did, and I read with great interest. In that endorsement, they go to great lengths saying how horrible Donald Trump is, all of which I agree with, and what a risk it'll be to our country and to the world if he gets elected again, all of which I agree with. They also say another thing I agree with, which is that Kamala Harris is avoiding interviews uh, and in-depth discussions of what policies she's going to promote. And they say that she's doing that because she knows if she's open and frank, she will have a lot of criticism. And they mention in passing that that's a bit like what Biden did when he got elected 4 years ago, pretty much on a campaign of, I'm not Donald Trump. And I'm not sure it's going to work this time, because what I've gradually concluded is that there are an awful lot of people in this country who want a dominant bully type person to make them feel safe or vindicated in their frustrations that their life isn't developing into as much as they hoped it would. So Kamala is going around being pleasant and intelligent and articulate, and Donald Trump's going around thumping and roaring, and while the left and the mainstream and the middle is screaming, watch out, he's a horrible, he'll do horrible, horrible things, there are a lot of people who just want somebody who's going to be tough. And I'm afraid he's going to win. And I'm terribly reminded of Hubert Humphrey in 1968, when he was unable to bring himself to say that he would end the war in Vietnam quickly if he got elected. You'll remember Lyndon Johnson didn't run again because he saw that the country was so divided about his having escalated the war in Vietnam. And then when Humphrey, who was his vice president, stepped in and carried the banner, while Johnson was willing to concede more in private than in public that he'd screwed up, he wouldn't approve of Humphrey coming out and saying Johnson made a mistake and I'm going to fix it. We got the same thing now, except we don't know but how much Kamala may actually agree with Biden's slavish support of the horrible things that Israel is doing, escalating tensions and killing thousands and thousands of people in the Middle East. And you know, in law school, I was taught something called felony murder. If you give somebody a ride to a convenience store and they go in there with a gun saying, I'm going to rob that place, under the felony murder rule, if they get in there and they get into a jam and they shoot the store owner and kill them, you could be prosecuted for murder, because you were participating in the antecedents to the killing. That taunts me. Felony murder. We're funding this travesty in the Middle East, and to say, oh, that's not us, that's Israel doing that. One of the generals in Israel said a few months ago, if we cut off the funding for that war, it would end in 5 days. So we're funding it and stoking it, and it's ours, it's on us. And the idea that we can step aside and wash our hands like Pontius Pilate did by saying, oh, Israel's doing that, that's ridiculous. And it's a massive denial of morality. And, you know, when I went over there to Holland, I heard a lot about not only the Germans trying to explain why they put up with Hitler, but also the Dutch on why they were so acquiescent when he came in. Lots of guilt, lots of trying to explain. What are we going to do here a few years from now when we try and tell our grandchildren what we did when that killing was going on? And those pictures are not going to go away. It's there, it's on us, and it's so sad. It's so sad. I think Kamala Harris is a wonderful person, but she's going along with this slaughter. And so I have a moral duty not to vote for her. I'm sorry. I'm going to vote for a third-party candidate. So it's not on me. I would feel much more nervous about this if I thought there was any chance that Trump could carry Oregon. I know for sure that Oregon is such a strong Democrat state that Kamala will win here by a tidy margin. But I don't want it on my conscience that I voted for somebody who's going along with the funding of that slaughter in that country. And I would appeal to you, go to YouTube, find the lecture, not the short one, saying why Israel is in big trouble, but the longer one that's an hour long from a few years ago, describing Israel's policies and how they want to get us into a fight with Iran and how they want to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians out of Israel.